Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun!
Enzo stepped off the bus in the quiet suburban neighborhood, his backpack slung over one shoulder, the weight of his college textbooks pulling him down like an anchor. The air was crisp with the scent of autumn leaves, and the familiar sight of Aunt Martha's cozy two-story house brought a mix of relief and exhaustion. At 21, he was in his junior year, buried under exams, group projects, and the relentless pressure to maintain his scholarship. Sleep had become a luxury, and the constant knot in his stomach refused to loosen. His parents had suggested he take a break and visit Aunt Martha, who lived alone since Uncle Ted passed away 5 years ago. She had always been the nurturing type, with her herbal remedies and endless cups of tea. Aunt Martha greeted him at the door with a warm hug, her silver hair tied back in a loose bun, and the aroma of fresh-baked scones wafting from the kitchen. "Enzo, my dear boy, you look like you've been through the ringer," she said, her eyes scanning his tired face. "Come in, let's get you settled." She led him to the guest room upstairs, where the bed was already made with crisp linens and a vase of wildflowers on the nightstand. As they sat in the living room later that evening, sipping chamomile tea, Enzo poured out his troubles, the sleepless nights, the panic attacks before presentations, the fear of failing and disappointing everyone. Martha listened patiently, her expression one of quiet concern. "You've always been so hard on yourself, Enzo. I remember when you were little, you'd push yourself until you collapsed. But there's no shame in needing a little help." She reached into a drawer of her antique side table and pulled out a small amber bottle with a dropper. "These are herbal anti-anxiety drops I make myself. All natural, from my garden, chamomile, valerian root, a few other soothing plants. Just a few drops in your water each day, morning and evening. They'll help calm your nerves without any side effects." Enzo hesitated, but the desperation in his chest won out. "If you think it'll help, Aunt Martha, I trust you." That night, he added the drops to a glass of water before bed, the liquid tasteless and clear. Sleep came easier than it had in weeks, a deep, dreamless rest that left him refreshed in the morning. He decided to extend his visit from a weekend to a full week, then another, emailing his professors about a family matter. Aunt Martha didn't mind. She seemed thrilled to have company, cooking hearty meals and sharing stories from her youth. Days turned into a routine. Each morning, Martha would prepare breakfast, oatmeal with fresh berries, eggs from her backyard chickens, and remind him to take the drops. "Don't forget, Enzo. Consistency is key." He'd nod, adding them to his orange juice, feeling the subtle easing of tension in his shoulders. Afternoons were spent in the garden, helping her weed flower beds or prune rose bushes, the physical work a welcome distraction from his studies. Evenings brought board games or old movies, with another dose in his herbal tea. The anxiety that had plagued him began to fade, replaced by a gentle calm. He started sleeping through the night, his appetite improved, and even his skin felt smoother, less prone to the stress-induced breakouts he'd battled. By the end of the first month, Enzo noticed small changes he attributed to the relaxed environment. His hair, always a thick auburn mane that he kept trimmed short, seemed to grow faster, falling in soft waves that brushed his collar. He ran his fingers through it one morning, surprised at how silky it felt. His muscles, toned from occasional gym visits, appeared less defined, his arms slimmer. "Must be all the home cooking," he muttered to himself in the mirror, shrugging it off. Aunt Martha smiled knowingly when he mentioned it, saying, "Nature has its ways of healing us from the inside out." As the second month progressed, the changes became harder to ignore. His skin grew even softer, almost velvety, and he found himself tearing up during a sentimental movie scene, emotions bubbling up unexpectedly. "I'm just overtired," he told Martha, wiping his eyes. She patted his hand. "Or maybe you're finally letting go of all that bottled-up stress." He continued the drops diligently, grateful for the peace they brought. College felt distant now. He'd taken a leave of absence, citing health reasons, and Aunt Martha encouraged him to stay as long as he needed. They took walks in the nearby park, where birds chirped and leaves rustled underfoot, and Enzo felt a lightness he hadn't known before. One evening, as he changed into pajamas, he paused, staring at his reflection. His chest felt tender, with slight swells that hadn't been there before. He pressed gently, wincing at the sensitivity. "What is this?" he whispered, confusion knotting his brow. His hips seemed wider too, his waist narrower, creating a subtle curve to his silhouette. The emotional shifts were more pronounced, waves of empathy, sudden joys, and inexplicable sadness. He confided in Martha over breakfast the next day, describing the odd sensations. She listened, her face calm, and suggested he give it time. "Bodies change, Enzo, especially when we're under stress, and then find relief." The third month brought undeniable transformations. The budding on his chest had developed into small breasts, unmistakable even under his loose shirts. His voice softened slightly, losing some of its deeper timbre. Emotions swirled like a storm. He'd laugh at a joke with a new melodic lilt, or cry over a touching story in a book. His auburn hair now reached his shoulders, cascading in natural waves that caught the light. Panic set in one afternoon as he tried on an old pair of jeans, finding them tight around the hips and loose at the waist. "Aunt Martha, something's wrong," he said, bursting into the kitchen where she was chopping vegetables. "My body's changing. It's not normal. What was in those drops?" Martha set down the knife, her expression a mix of guilt and resolve. She led him to the living room, sitting him on the couch. "Enzo, I need to be honest with you. Those weren't just herbal drops. They contained estrogen, a hormone to help with transition. I've watched you all your life, struggling with who you are, hiding behind that tough exterior. I saw the signs, the way you'd linger on women's magazines as a teen, the quiet unhappiness. I believe you'd be happier as Brianna. That's the name I always thought suited the real you." Fury surged through him like a wildfire. "You drugged me? Without my consent? How could you?" He stood, pacing the room, his auburn hair swinging with each step. Tears streamed down his face, hot and unbidden. "This is my body. My life. You've ruined everything." Martha remained seated, her voice steady. "I did it out of love, Enzo. I wanted to help you find peace. Give it a chance. See how it feels." He stormed upstairs, slamming the door, and collapsed on the bed, sobbing into the pillow. Hours passed in a haze of anger and confusion. As night fell, curiosity crept in. What if she was right? He'd always felt out of place, like a puzzle piece forced into the wrong spot. Tentatively, he opened the closet where Martha had stored some old clothes from her younger days. Among them was a pink cashmere sweater, soft and inviting, and a white pleated skirt that swayed gently when he held it up. His heart raced as he slipped them on, the fabric hugging his changing form. The sweater draped over his budding breasts, the skirt brushing his legs in a way that felt strangely right. He looked in the mirror, his auburn hair framing a face that seemed softer, more feminine. "Brianna," he whispered, testing the name. The next morning, Brianna descended the stairs, still in the sweater and skirt, her steps hesitant but determined. Aunt Martha's eyes lit up. "You look beautiful, Brianna." They talked for hours, Brianna expressing her lingering anger, but also a budding intrigue. "It feels different, lighter." Over the following days, she experimented more, always remaining in feminine attire. No going back, no slipping into old habits. She tried on blouses with delicate lace, dresses that flowed to her knees, each piece affirming the shift. Her auburn hair, now styled in loose curls with Martha's help, enhanced the transformation. Confidence bloomed like spring flowers. Brianna ventured outside for the first time in a sundress, the fabric whispering against her skin as she walked to the local market. Strangers smiled, addressing her as Miss, and she felt seen in a way Enzo never had. Back home, she helped Martha in the garden, her movements graceful, her laughter freer. Emotions that once overwhelmed her now fueled creativity. She started journaling, pouring out thoughts on identity and self-discovery. "I was always hiding," she wrote one evening, the pen gliding smoothly. "Now I'm emerging." Weeks turned into a new routine. Brianna enrolled in online courses, her focus sharper, anxiety a distant memory. She and Martha baked together, the kitchen filled with the scent of cinnamon and vanilla, sharing stories of what life could hold. One afternoon, as they sat on the porch sipping lemonade, Brianna turned to her aunt. "I was furious at first, but thank you. You saw what I couldn't admit to myself. Being Brianna feels right." Martha hugged her tightly. "I knew you would, my dear." As months passed, Brianna's transformation deepened. The estrogen continued, under medical supervision now that she'd chosen this path, her body aligning more with her inner self. Her auburn hair grew longer, often braided or pinned up in elegant styles. She discovered a passion for painting, setting up an easel in the sunroom, capturing landscapes in vibrant hues. Friends from college reached out, puzzled by her absence, but she responded vaguely, not ready to share yet. In town, she joined a book club, her voice confident in discussions, her insights drawing admiration. One crisp morning, Brianna decided to visit the nearby lake, packing a picnic in a wicker basket. Dressed in a floral blouse and knee-length skirt, she strolled along the path, the water sparkling under the sun. A young woman jogging by stopped to chat, complimenting her auburn hair. "It's so striking. Natural?" Brianna smiled, nodding. "Yes, it's always been this way." The conversation flowed easily, a friendship budding in those moments. Back home, she experimented with makeup, subtle touches of mascara and lip gloss that enhanced her features without overwhelming. Martha guided her, sharing tips from her own youth. Confidence comes from within, but a little enhancement never hurts. Brianna laughed, twirling in front of the mirror, the skirt flaring out. Evenings brought quiet reflections. She'd sit by the window, watching stars emerge, pondering the journey from Enzo to Brianna. Doubts occasionally surfaced. What if this was a mistake? But they faded quickly, replaced by a profound sense of belonging. Socially, Brianna expanded her world. She volunteered at the local library, organizing shelves and reading to children during story hour. Her soft voice and empathetic nature made her a favorite, the kids clamoring for more tales.
"You're like a princess with that pretty hair,"
one little girl said, touching Brianna's auburn locks. She blushed, but the compliment warmed her heart. At home, she and Martha hosted a small dinner for neighbors, Brianna in an elegant blouse and skirt, conversing animatedly about books and gardens. Personal growth continued. Brianna took up yoga, her body moving fluidly in poses that strengthened her core and calmed her mind. The changes from the estrogen were evident, curves more pronounced, skin glowing, but it was the inner shift that mattered most. She felt empowered, no longer the anxious student, but a woman embracing her truth. Letters to her parents were drafted and redrafted, explaining the transformation, but she held off sending them, waiting for the right moment. One rainy afternoon, as thunder rumbled outside, Brianna found an old photo album in the attic. Flipping through pages, she saw pictures of herself as a child, auburn hair tousled, eyes hinting at unspoken longings. "I was always her," she murmured. Martha joined her, and they spent hours reminiscing, strengthening their bond. Adventures beckoned. Brianna planned a day trip to the city, dressing in a chic top and flowing skirt, her auburn hair tied back with a ribbon. The train ride was exhilarating, the urban buzz invigorating. She explored museums, losing herself in art exhibits, her steps light and purposeful. A street performer played a melody on violin, and she swayed to the music, feeling alive. Returning home, she delved into fashion, sewing simple alterations to clothes, customizing them to fit her style. Martha's sewing machine hummed as Brianna created a scarf from soft fabric, wrapping it around her neck. "It's perfect," Martha said. Evenings often ended with tea on the porch, discussing dreams, perhaps traveling, starting a small business. Challenges arose, like a bout of self-doubt during a quiet week. Brianna stared at her reflection, questioning the permanence. But she pushed through, affirming her choice with daily rituals, brushing her auburn hair, selecting outfits that made her feel strong. Support from online communities helped. Anonymous forums where she shared experiences without revealing too much. As seasons changed, winter brought snow, blanketing the yard in white. Brianna bundled in a cozy sweater and long skirt, building a snowman with Martha, laughter echoing. Holidays approached, and she decorated the house, stringing lights and baking cookies. The warmth inside contrasted the chill outside, mirroring her inner peace. Spring arrived with blooms, and Brianna planted new flowers, her hands in the soil, auburn hair catching the breeze. She felt ready for more, perhaps reconnecting with old friends, revealing her true self. One evening, she composed an email to a close college buddy, fingers hovering over the send button. But as she prepared to press it, a knock sounded at the door. Opening it, she found a stranger standing there, holding an envelope with her old name on it. "Are you Enzo? I have some questions about your past." Brianna's heart raced, the unexpected intrusion threatening the life she'd built. Hope you enjoyed the story so far. The rest will be available on Patreon.